Good afternoon, Madam Chair, board members, and Superintendent Davis. I'm pleased to share with you our annual school preparations, which are well underway. As I shared last time, working teams have been focused on continuous improvement as they plan to finish the year strong and prepare for summer learning, and to ensure everyone's ready for day one. As we look to the conclusion of this school year, there are a couple items I'd like to highlight. Of course, I know no one has thought about this, but we do have spring break coming up the week of April 4th. And then following spring break, our state testing window begins. And for our middle and elementary school students, that'll be in April. And then for our high school, for end-of-course and AP testing, that will be in May. And resources to support families with this are available online. And of course, our graduation ceremonies, again at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, begin on May 18th. And those school-based customized traditions that families are used to that accompany the end of the school year are well planned. Now, to ensure that we're prepared for summer learning and recovery, it's important that we continuously review and analyze and then act on the data that we are monitoring to address impact of COVID and learning interruption and start working toward regaining that momentum that we had. And as you can see here, and I'll orient you to the chart, there are several points of data that we're monitoring and hold ourselves accountable to. And I'm going to start with the box on the top. This board's continued priority on a student's ability to read never waned over the course of the pandemic. And as you can see, again in that top box, in 5 of the 8 tested grades, we've returned the overall percent of students reading on or above grade level to pre-pandemic levels. And we're continuing targeted support in the grades and schools where this is not the case, but this is very promising. Additionally, we're also starting to see improved student outcomes in maintaining focus on early literacy. This board's investment in the tools and systems building around phonics and foundational reading skills. For example, this year's third graders, they're the first group that started and had consistent instruction through our early literacy model, which you've heard about. They actually grew during this pandemic, didn't recess, didn't maintain. They grew by 19%, the percent of kids reading on or above grade level since first grade. This board is also aware that we've been investing time and resources into supporting our incredible Algebra 1 teachers, and we're proud to share that in our winter EOC, as in the second box, moving to Algebra 1, a small sample of our students who took the course show a promising trend and are only 1% away from pre-pandemic levels of Algebra 1 performance. And just to brag on students and teachers at Stockbridge High School, they're performing 8 points higher than pre-pandemic levels. And then lastly, as seen in the last box, we've been studying the rates of students by grade level who are on track for graduation. And we have found that we do have an increase in the number of students who are off track, especially in 10th and 11th grade. Proactive work is being done to ensure that these students have opportunity for intervention now while they're in 10th and 11th grade, as well as access to regulation-informed grade repair and credit or course recovery. In addition, this will inform advisement, grad coaching, and support for our teams at the high school level. But I think it's important when you look at this on the balance to take a moment and acknowledge the outstanding work of our educators and teachers and leaders. They never stopped. They went from in-person on the 13th to remote on the 16th and never missed a beat. And so really, their perseverance and effort are why we're seeing our students perform at higher levels than many other systems. So they're simply the best and deserve a moment of recognition. So to continue to address learning gaps and accelerate learning, we've planned, as you can see, a robust summer of learning. You can see on the screen our district's commitment to summer programming and targeted grades and courses. And I'm going to start from, the left to the right with, make sure I got the size right, rising first and second grade, and then I'm going to detail through each of the boxes a little bit about the programming that we're going to have this summer. So for the second year, we're investing federal relief funds to provide a summer bridge program at every elementary school in person and virtually, as shown in the first column. This year for rising first, second, and third graders in need of accelerating learning, investing in these early foundational grades with hands-on learning to include intentional opportunities for creativity and movement, solidify that readiness for the next grade's learning. Robust and aligned aftercare will also be available for families who need a full-day experience. In the second column, you'll see for our transition grades for rising ninth graders, each middle school will have a course to prepare students who need additional support to be ready for Algebra 1, that critical gateway course for most of our ninth graders. This is aligned to the data that our need shows, but also algebra readiness work that is in our strategic plan. And transportation will be available for these opportunities. Then there are district offerings for elementary and middle school that also allow for customization. So based on individual school needs, schools may choose to add courses or students, grades, or programs using designated federal funds for that purpose. Also excited this year to announce the return of our STEM camp at the Academy for Advanced Studies, moving into that third column. New and improved, it reflects the work of our community strategic plan goals, and we're so happy to provide this opportunity in person for enrichment again. And for high school students, now moving to the fourth column, with the regulation-aligned grade range, have the opportunity again for grade repair. So this is for 2 weeks right at the conclusion of the school year. For these are for students that are just right there, but just need a little bit more time to pass the course. But then also, we will also have the district recovery program for 6 weeks for students who failed a course, but failed it within a range where 6 weeks is enough time to show mastery. This will be virtual available to all students now moving over into the fifth column. And in the sixth column, our ESE students who qualify for extended school year will have the opportunity to continue their learning with a focus on limiting the regression of skills that they've successfully acquired this year and advancing new goals that are aligned in their IEPs. Our ESOL student summer virtual tutoring will be available, highlighted there in the seventh column, to keep our students learning this summer who are working hard to acquire those speaking and writing skills. And of course, all of the resources for students and families will be available all summer on the Never Stop Learning website for independent practice for students at grade levels as detailed in that final column. So there truly is this summer something for every student should they choose to take advantage of it in Henry County. Every student. Summer learning opportunity also, and so how are students selected for this? Summer Bridge and Transition, the district-related programs are based on student performance. So students, as we saw last year, will be invited to that. Now, in addition to that, as I detailed, schools may choose to use their designated funds to add to or enhance or develop programs that are adaptable or based on what they would like to see in their school. That selection criteria would then be based on the school and the school program. Haven't forgot about our teachers, staff, and leaders either, so much summer professional development for them as well. Not only are we investing in our students, we're investing in our teachers, our support professionals, and our leaders. And seen here are many of the optional professional learning opportunities available this summer for our teachers and leaders and staff to continue growing their skills and practices. And you can see a variety of coursework on the left-hand side there for leaders, and then for our teachers, our paras on the other side in blue. So it really is going to be a fun and impactful summer for our students and our staff. And really and truly, the learning never stops, as we have seen here in Henry. So as we transition and turn the page from this school year to the next, there are several items I'd like to highlight for our families. We cannot wait to welcome our new kindergarten and pre-K students to our to our schools. I can already see them running down the halls. Maybe not running, walking. And also, registration for families who have an incoming kindergarten student begins on March 22nd. This information can already be found on the district's webpage. And for all our returning families, you'll be able to update your information following spring break, and I'm going to detail some additional information on the next slide about that. And of course, our Welcome Center at the Henry Learning Support Center is open throughout the week, every day, to help their parents with hours, and they have a dedicated office staff as well to help parents with whatever they might need with registration or completing their paperwork. So in preparation for the 22-23 school year, we want all families to have updated current information on file. So shortly after spring break, families are going to receive notification that they need to update and verify their information through the Henry County Schools Parent Portal. Through this portal, parents will access the online registration information to update and confirm addresses, telephone numbers, emails. This is very important. This is how families receive information. No longer, and of course, as we've said before, does a parent who may have multiple children have to fill out multiple forms, as all used to on the cards. This will all be done and updated by household within the portal. And all current families are encouraged to take advantage of this early opportunity to be ready for day one. This process alleviates that strain and stress that often accompanies back to school with all those forms and paperwork and did it get home in the book bag, especially for families with multiple students. So when school starts, families will be able to focus on building connections with teachers and schools, knowing all of their back-to-school paperwork and processes are complete. This also helps our transportation department, our health services team, all be prepared to receive students on day one. Also, you'll see down there at the bottom, all of this information is going to be available in a one-stop shop, BeReadyDay1Henry.com. And again, all this information will be sent to families and communicated through every means and source that we have available, thanks to JD and his team. And again, our Welcome Center also stands ready throughout the summer and now to assist families with a computer kiosk and also access to staff, because sometimes it's nice to have somebody help guide you through this process, so that support will be available. We do want our families to be aware that the federal waiver that has allowed for all of our school meals to be free expires on June 30th. So this means that starting on day one of this school year, students will either pay full price for a meal or may qualify for free or reduced lunch status. But to qualify, families must complete a free and reduced lunch application form as soon as possible. These can be found in the parent portal or speak to your child's school nutrition manager. Very important for our families to hear that. And then registration for the after-school enrichment program begins May 2nd, through the 20th. Each school will have an enrollment link to the ASEP website. Also of note, we're studying the opportunity to provide a tuition-based program for middle school students who would like to have an early drop-off. And when it comes to our operations, our team is ready. Our families who need bus transportation will select that when completing their form for their day one information, and are also encouraged to download Here Comes the Bus app. So far, over 9,000 accounts have been created, allowing you to know when your bus is arriving. Recruitment for drivers and monitors is ongoing, and we're reviewing our operations to increase efficiencies for things like school arrival and dismissal practices, and reviewing schedules to ensure on-time delivery. And once again, we'll open our transportation call center that we did this year for the very first time to support families, so that when they call, someone will answer the phone and help. But again, I go back to encouraging everyone to download that Here Comes the Bus app. And of course, all safety requirements, trainings, inspections will be conducted as required. Our facilities team will ensure that each site is ready for day one, both inside and out. Go ahead and change the slide. Yep, thanks. Be ready for day one, inside and out. All the grass will be cut, the floors waxed, that back to school feeling and smell that we get and are used to, and as well as all the construction projects. Josh will detail a little bit more in his report, along with building and safety enhancements. So it really is a busy summer for all of these groups. Our human resources team is ensuring each campus is fully staffed for day one, and we're well underway. 96% of contracts offered in February were returned. Recruitment events are underway, and our principals were able to post vacancies early to get the best talent. And we're also excited about growing our own talent, and the Future Educator Signing Day is planned for May 3rd. So we're already working to recruit those students back to be a Henry County School employee. Also, our technology team, and on the technology front, all of our students can look forward to exchanging their current devices for new ones in August. Our technology team remains busy throughout the summer, ensuring all digital learning tools are ready for day one, and of course that also continues over the summer as they support the Never Stop Learning programs. So, Board, I am confident that we're prepared for a successful conclusion of the current year, a robust summer of learning, and an exceptional day one. Dr. Davis, that concludes my report, but I remain available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Schrum. Madam Chair, that concludes what we prepared, but remain available for discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Davis, and thank you for that great report, Mr. Schrum. Any questions or comments? Dr. Nutt?
I think everybody can hear me. I have my teacher voice going on here. Thank you for your report, and we just appreciate all of this detail. Please tell me, I'm excited about them upgrading their information. But what if you have parents, especially that are non-English, or if they don't have internet? And believe it or not, we have a lot this day and time that do not have computer access or internet service. How are we going to support these parents or these students with filling out these applications? And
Thank you for that question. I think that's very important. A couple of things I would say. One, because of our timeline this year and doing this starting soon after spring break, we have an opportunity to ensure that every student completes it before they go home for the summer, while we still have every teacher that can give a phone call to that kid that they know. And so we're hoping for 100% of people complete this before the end of the school year. And so that way, teachers know their kids, schools know their kids. And so for those kids and families that need additional support, there's language translation services available, and also at the Welcome Center, individuals available in person, and also support at the school. So if they do need help with the internet or need another way to complete the item, the Welcome Center stands ready to support them as well. But again, the benefit of doing this process before kids go home for the summer is that we're able to track and monitor completion. And so we're able to follow up and ask those families, hey, we noticed you didn't complete the online registration. What can we do to help you?
thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nutt. Mrs. Edwards?
Thank you for the report, Mrs. Strum. A couple of questions. I noticed under the Summer Bridge program, you stated that schools can use their funds, correct? So what if the schools do not have the funds?
Sure, that's a
How
great.
would that affect their summer program?
That's a great question. So a couple of those items, again, were our district, right? So that's for every school. So when you see Summer Bridge and the 8th grade transition with the Algebra 1, that's for every school. In addition to that, as we talked about in the report, every school received additional allotment of money, also from our ARPA federal funds. And so that went to every single school for them to utilize now and throughout the summer to do recovery or acceleration. And then in addition, our Title I schools have additional support and finances available to help them craft additional programs above and beyond the district. So everyone gets that base that's invited based on their performance, but then schools can customize solutions on top of that using those two available funding sources. But every school, whether they're Title I funded or not, received a $15,000 allotment to help. And also, should they need more, there was a mechanism in there where they could say, my program might need a little bit more, and they're able to send that to us to review.
Okay, thank you. Also, under opportunities for leaders, I noticed the Alliance of Teacher Leaders is listed there. The university, let me ask you this. The University of Virginia, is that program still in place? Is it over? Are the funds depleted for that program, or is it still ongoing?
So we have a select group of schools that are receiving additional support and training for leaders and leadership teams. That is beyond what's listed in the program. That is ongoing, and then that also helps those leaders then help lead other leaders through our summer leadership development seminar. So that is ongoing.
Okay, so I'm trying to remember. I know we approved it, so I don't know if it was approved to be ongoing, or does it have to come back to the board? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Does that program have to come back to the board? And maybe Dr. Davis can answer that question.
Yeah, I think either one of us can answer that. So the cohort that's funded by the board's action is a multi-year cohort. Mm-hmm. And then a new cohort being established would require coming back to the board to approach that authorization.
So in other words, the year has not ended.
Correct.
Okay.
But the programs listed there are in addition to that.
Okay, and my final question is bus transportation. I don't know who needs to answer this question, but I just received a text from a parent that's really upset. Red Oak parent said her child is being picked up between 9 and 9:30, misses her first class period every day, and gets home at 6 p.m. daily with no notice, no phone call or anything. So how is that continuing to happen
Sure. Well, so I would say we would certainly want to see that information so that our transportation division can look into that. We have a really strong on-time delivery numbers now, especially for our elementary schools. So without me knowing the additional circumstances or transportation speaking to that family, it'd be difficult for me to talk any more about that situation.
And my final question is, are we still short of drivers, bus drivers?
Yeah, I think we could go ahead and ask Mr. Malcolm to respond to our current staffing circumstances.
Yes. Yes, we remain short of our total allotment for bus drivers.
So our parents being notified continuously that we're still short of bus drivers, because she will probably be here at the 7 o'clock meeting to express her opinion because she's quite concerned. So I get the feeling that parents are assuming that we're not still short of bus drivers.
We currently have 59 open positions for bus drivers.
And this is my final question. So are parents being told, are parents being sent messages? I'm just trying to find out, how can parents really find out that we're still short of bus drivers? Because the children are being late for class. They're being taken home late. They're being dropped off late. They're being picked up late. And I'm just concerned that if a child is at a bus stop at 9:30 a.m., that child may be there by themselves.
So I can't speak specifically to that incident today. Our numbers at the elementary school are very good for on-time delivery. So we would have to reach out to that parent and see what happened with that particular instance. But where we see the most lag right now is at our middle school. So we work on a 3-tier system. We go from elementary to high to middle. So we'll just have to reach out to that parent, and we'll have to talk to that parent about what happened specifically with their child, because our elementary school numbers are very good. Even with the amount of bus drivers we currently need, our elementary school numbers are near 100%. So I'll need to do some more research on that one.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Edwards. Mr. McDaniel?
Thank you. Mr. Schrum, question for you. What is our current, do we know currently what our pre-K registration numbers are? Do we have a number on that just yet?
I do not have that off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you. Now, we talked about closing the gaps, reviewing COVID impact, and we said for on-track graduation, we're seeing an increase in the percentage of students off track for graduation with larger gaps presenting in 10th and 11th grades. Unfortunately, there are some instances, and I think we've talked about this on the board, about, the pacing guides, about, teachers having the autonomy to really kind of to teach, but in their effort to teach and using the mindset that they have and the creativity that they possess to make sure that they can teach to where a scholar can actually receive the information and apply it, that yet our pacing guides may be a little, Dr. Nutt, I think you said it maybe just a little too fast, to where that does not allow a teacher the opportunity to actually invest in that student that may be lagging. The reality is that we're hearing this. I'm hearing this across the district. And for some odd reason, it has continuously fallen upon deaf ears. And so what I'm asking is that if we need to do some type of review, if we need to do some type of study or whatever, but we've got to ensure that, and although this is happening in 10th and 11th grade, I know some kindergartners that are already suffering. I know some kindergartners that are not at the level that they need to be at. And we would do a kindergartner wrong if we move them from kindergarten to first grade and continue to build on their deficiencies if we never really actually capture it. So I'm asking that if we can, let's find a way to, if we got to slow it down, what we ever have to do to make sure that we're actually teaching our scholars to master, not just check a box, but to master the skills that our teachers are teaching them. That's the first question. That's the first, not question, but point. The other one is I'm very happy to see about the summer learning opportunities that we're offering to all of our scholars. But if I may have a concern from teachers that I've heard from teachers as well, is that many of our students are not paying attention inside the classroom. Many of our students are sitting there with their AirPods inside of their ears, cell phones in their hand. not listen to anything that the teacher or that he or she is trying to instruct or teach them. The student then fails the class, and then they don't really have a care in the world because they know that, guess what, I can go to summer learning for 2 weeks and get a 70, although I have a 64 or 59 or whatever. And that actually, again, does a disservice to some of our teachers. And I hope that as we go through the Code of Conduct review, that we find a way to ensure that our scholars that are sitting there are respecting the teachers that are actually there teaching. It is very disrespectful for a scholar to have earbuds or AirPods in their ears on their cell phones while instruction is going on. I think that hurts the teacher, but also hurts the scholar. And finally, I know that we talked about our enrollment at AAS. I know that I think the enrollment numbers are down. Are they not as high as they once were? Are they the same?
I'm not aware of them being down.
Okay, I heard that the enrollment numbers for next year were kind of a little bit lower than what they were last year. That's what we were saying in the agenda review.
Familiar with that?
Impact. Sorry, impact. I apologize. Thank you.
Yes, we were at 5,000.
Got too many of them. I got to get it right. Impact. I appreciate it.
We're at 3,000 this time.
So the enrollment numbers are down at impact. How will that impact our teacher allocations for this school year?
Sure. Well, I think we're seeing a little bit of a stabilization. People are finding the environments that work best for them. And so in the midst of the pandemic, of course, we saw a high rise in the number, and we opened up that facility serving over 5,000 kids. And so I think we're seeing students decide that the best place for them to learn might be the classroom or those for which that environment. And our Human Resources Division takes that information when they do the allocations and works with the individual school to ensure that teachers have the right placement.
Okay, and then finally, I know a lot of times we say that when it comes down to classroom sizes, we always say that way, hey, we have a waiver. And we use that seemingly sometimes, as some people would say, as almost like a scapegoat to say that we can have 35 or 40 scholars in one class. That is kind of, I'm not a teacher, never been a teacher. But I think for some teachers that may be here in the room and listening online, that's a lot of scholars in one class. And I will want to know if we can find a pathway to where we actually have 25 to 28 scholars in a class, that we're actually somewhat closer to what the state is actually saying that we should have, and not use a waiver as a scapegoat of saying, well, this is the reason why we can do 35 or 40. I think that if we're able to minimize our class sizes, then that may have a very profound impact on the teaching and learning environment. It can help out our teachers, but it also can help out our scholars. So I, again, as I've said to Dr. Madden, to anyone here, I commend you for the work that you're doing. It's very tasking, but I thank you for what you are doing and how you're leading your division. But I think that there's work that we can do, and I stand ready to support you in the work, sir.
Thank you, Mr. McDaniel. Mrs. Pope?
Yes, thank you so much. And looking through all of this, I think it's important to see that we are acknowledging that we have a lot of growth and we have a lot of work to do for students to get them caught up. That's what these charts are acknowledging right now. But I can't not celebrate those amazing gains for students. That 19% represents a lot of third graders, and that is phenomenal. I'm just so grateful. And Stockbridge High School outperforming pre-pandemic, we're not talking about COVID numbers, performance by 8%, that's a lot of students, and that's a lot of reason to celebrate. So thank you for sharing that encouragement with us. And again, I have so much hope for how we are continuing to reach students and provide the very best, because we truly have the very best here in Henry County. And I'm just a few points about the summer learning opportunities. Thank you for bringing this data to our attention. Thank you for looking at the data to determine how we can best serve our students. I know we had great success in last year's summer programs, and that required so much work from so many people and so many of our teachers and this executive cabinet and support professionals. So I'm really grateful for the commitment that never stops. And I cannot wait to see these STEM camps come back. These are the opportunities that our kids need. And it feels normal. And I'm like scared to even say that word out loud because I feel like we've caught ourselves so many times after saying it. But this is really, really energizing to me to see that these opportunities are coming back. I know Never Stop Learning has been in place for several years now, and anyone can take advantage of that. But I'm really hopeful that through those additional funds that the schools have, we can see more enrichment opportunities for our higher achieving students also. Those students who may need additional support, but also who just want extra opportunities to learn. We're finally in a place that feels like that is an option again after a couple of years. So I'm really hopeful to see those great opportunities. And I know that we have the best learning and performance team to help write those programs, and I hope that that continues for years to come. And thank you for bringing to our attention and to the community's attention the need to reapply for free and reduced lunch. That is so important, and I know and trust that our communications will be strong, as they always are, to ensure that families have plenty of opportunity to sign up for that and reach out to the right people. But I know after a couple of years of the federal grant, I think it is, the federal waiver, I'm grateful that you're sharing that with us now so families have time to reach out for the resources that they may need. But I'm really, really hopeful. I think we have some phenomenal things happening in our schools and a lot of room for growth, which is the best place to be. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Pope. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you for that amazing report, Mr. Strum. I really appreciate you and all that you're doing.